We're in the closing hours of one of the worst weeks of Democratic political news I can remember. Iowa started off the week and then was there the whole week, just one series of messes after another. And maybe you are like me and you've been wondering, so what comes out of this? We were speculating as it was happening on Monday, how this might affect the eventual winners, the eventual losers. You want to have a clean win in Iowa, and obviously no one has been able to get that. And so I have been trying to go and look, what's the actual data? What do people actually think coming out of this? And so one thing that I think is important is when you ask Democratic primary voters, who are you more or less likely to vote for as a result of what you've witnessed? And when you look at that, I know there's a lot here, but at the top, Bernie Sanders got the most, much more likely, and also a lot of somewhat more likely as well. Biden, even though he did horrendously, people are pretty interested in him. And then it goes down from there, where Tom Steyer, actually at the bottom there it's Klobuchar, Steyer, and Gabbard feeling the worst effects coming out of this. You have Buttigieg, who might have won or gotten second.
Oh wow!
He's right there in the middle. Like it does not seem to have boosted him in general. Maybe in New Hampshire, and some of the polls look pretty good for him in the last few days there. But nationally, Bernie Sanders and Biden, despite one winning and one coming in fourth, they are getting the most momentum coming out of this.
So that's a poll for people who weren't paying attention?
Apparently,
so,
it seems
that's
like
kind
it.
of what your perception of the Iowa caucus is. Is that it?
No, it's not who you think is gonna win or anything. It's like, you've seen all this, now what do you think about these candidates? Has this made you more or less like,
or
you're gonna support them?
Support them, okay. It's still a weird.
And the thing too is, in terms of not paying attention, like there are plenty of people who are gonna end up voting in the Democratic primary that were not paying much attention to Iowa.
Right, right, that's a good point.
Do you think that the results in Iowa matter to the people that it should matter to?
I don't know, that's what I've been trying to discover.
Well, I think the results in Iowa, or what happened in Iowa, did unfortunately, because look, the whole point of Iowa, the only thing that's like super relevant about Iowa is that it kicks off the primaries, right? And so the news coverage that the winner receives can really help them with momentum
and money.
And so this little game that Buttigieg played and this little stunt that he unfortunately pulled off, according to some polling in New Hampshire, I think Monmouth is one of the polls, shows an 8% rise in his performance, I guess, like more people are willing to consider him in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Now, the front runner in New Hampshire continues to be Bernie Sanders, but because of the way the media covered Iowa and the way that they kind of carried Buttigieg's declaration that he won, unfortunately helped him.
Yes.
And it's ridiculous because, as we know, there were all sorts of problems and inconsistencies. And at this point, he's not the winner. He's not the clear winner because everything's been inaccurate. There's been all sorts of issues. So for him to claim that he's the winner is ridiculous. But anyway, put that aside. The way the media helped him is the real issue because he experienced that rise in the polls in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I don't know how much they actually helped him. I mean, if nothing bad had happened, if it had just been the way it should have been, it's likely that Bernie would have won, Buttigieg would have gotten second, and he would have seen a bit of a rise in the polls. So we can look at, and again, nationally, it doesn't seem to be helping him much, at least yet. In New Hampshire, it has helped him, but it might have helped him anyway if there hadn't been any of this. I mean, we've known for 6 weeks now that he was gonna finish very well in Iowa. He's spent millions upon millions of dollars. He's been polling very well there for a couple of months.
Talked about the shape of our democracy while he was there.
He did, and I want, democracy is vague, but what's its shape? I want candidates to talk about that.
I agree. I think
parallelogram.
Not since The Music Man was written has there been so much damage inflicted on Iowa. This is horrible, and I hope that there is some sort of intervention to help Iowans through this post-caucus stress disorder thing they've had, because everyone in Iowa's got to be embarrassed.
They should be. They absolutely should be.
Because
the Iowa Democratic Party should be embarrassed. Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, should absolutely step down.
Absolutely.
What's happening right now is, even if you aren't invested in a particular candidate, again, the damage that this does in people's trust in the process is.
And Trump was on record today saying, I don't know what's happening over there, and all it does is feed. It's a drug for the susceptible to this. You know what I'm talking about. Folks who are just so into this conspiratorial notion that it's all fake and that votes are fake, and I think the damage is just done.
Yeah, I do worry that if you're in a future caucus site, your odds of going, like, it's got to have hurt that at least a little bit. Like the idea that you could potentially be stuck there, like going to a caucus is a long process no matter what. But if this is what you believe could happen, and obviously it's different state parties and all that, they're not gonna be using the app in Nevada. But I could see some people being driven away from the process because of it. That was certainly the goal of Republicans coming out of it, all of them. Trump and his sons and Republican officials were trying in every one of their social media posts to try to get Democratic voters to check out of the system.
Right.
Because they want turnout to be low. They want some unqualified candidate to make it through. They want to be able to win in November. And so they were working towards that.
I'm amazed that, look, we have an app where you can touch a button and like a Big Mac will show up at your house.
Yeah. I love those apps. Those are the best apps.
Or a car will come to you and take you somewhere, and you can actually see the car coming toward you.
In real time.
Yeah.
They couldn't have an app that counted stuff?
Not when Bernie Sanders is the front runner.
Like a calculator? No. Like a fancy calculator. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. They blew it.
Like a Wi-Fi enabled TI-89. Could have gotten the job done. You could play Doom on
Did
those.
You just reference a Texas Instruments?
I remember those days.
That was a machine.
Those days were terrible.
That was a
God, like a $100 calculator. My immigrant parents were like, "What is this? What? So do you even like this math class?"
And you only used like 10 buttons on the lower right.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of those did. I don't know what any of those did. Oh, geez.
But it spelled hell upside down, and that was cool.
It did, among other things.
Yes,
I'm not gonna spoil it, but play around a little bit. With the keyboard, people.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.